The biggest mistake you can make is believing that hard work alone guarantees greatness. Millions of people work themselves to exhaustion every day and still die broke, forgotten, and unfulfilled. Friedrich Nietzsche pointed out that real strength is not just labor, it is the willingness to cut away every distraction, every comfortable relationship, and every weak habit that does not serve your higher vision. If you continue chasing success using the standard advice fed to the crowd, you will burn out while building nothing of value. Ignoring the harsh rules of elite performance costs you your most valuable asset, your limited time on Earth. From the moment you are born, society conditions you to seek validation. You are taught to follow the rules, raise your hand, avoid making waves, and make sure everyone around you feels comfortable. This deep psychological desire for social approval is natural. It is an ancient survival mechanism designed to keep you safe inside the herd. But if your goal is distinction, this exact need to be liked becomes a lethal trap. Greatness and public consensus never walk hand in hand. The harsh truth is that extraordinary vision always looks like madness to minds that are satisfied with average living. Friedrich Nietzsche recognized this fundamental flaw in human nature, warning heavily against the danger of following the herd mentality. Nietzsche understood that the collective crowd values safety, conformity, and predictable routine above all else. When you step out of line to chase a vision that others cannot see, the herd will not applaud you. They will judge you, mock your intensity, call you reckless, or actively attempt to drag you back down to their level. Seeking approval from the crowd while trying to build an elite life is like trying to run a marathon with heavy iron chains wrapped around your ankles. Every major visionary, innovator, and leader throughout history was deeply misunderstood before they were celebrated. Their radical ideas made comfortable people feel threatened. If they had paused to ask for permission or adjusted their standards to make the crowd happy, their greatness would have been strangled in its infancy. When you make the decision to elevate your life, you must accept that being misunderstood is not a mistake. It is an essential badge of honor. If everyone around you agrees with your goals, understands your schedule, and approves of your choices, your ambitions are simply too small. True progress requires stepping into uncharted territory where normal people cannot follow your logic. They will not understand why you wake up early, why you sacrifice weekends, or why you refuse to engage in cheap gossip and mindless entertainment. To overcome the illusion of approval, you must build what high-performance psychologists call an internal locus of control. You have to stop treating other people's opinions as facts and start viewing them as background noise. As Nietzsche famously stated, it is easy to live in the world after the world's opinion, but the great individual is he who in the midst of the crowd keeps with perfect sweetness the independence of solitude. You cannot build a legendary career, business, or mind if your self-esteem fluctuates based on how many people validate your choices today. Real strength means becoming comfortable with being the villain in other people's stories. Let them think you are strange, distant, or overly ambitious. Let them misinterpret your radical focus as arrogance. Your job is not to manage their perceptions or convince them to see your vision. Your job is to build the reality that proves it. Break free from the desperate need to be understood by people who have no intention of going where you are headed. Build thick mental armor against judgment. Trade the cheap security of social approval for the ultimate freedom of self-mastery, and let your results do the talking. The biggest obstacle preventing you from reaching your ultimate potential isn't your competition, your lack of money, or your current environment. It is your attachment to the person you are right now. Most people desperately want a new life, but they refuse to let go of the old self that got them into their current position. They want elevated results while clinging tightly to the exact same habits, weak mindsets, and comfortable safety nets that have kept them average for years. To step into true greatness, you must hold an identity funeral. You must be willing to emotionally and psychologically kill off the version of yourself that is soft, easily distracted, and satisfied with mediocrity. As Friedrich Nietzsche recognized in his core philosophy of self-overcoming, man is not a finished product, man is a bridge to something greater. Nietzsche warned that to build a higher, more powerful version of yourself, you must be prepared to burn your former self to ashes. You cannot construct a cathedral on top of a decaying foundation. The old beliefs that told you to play it safe, the need for immediate pleasure, and the desperate craving for approval must all be sacrificed to make room for who you are destined to become. This process is deeply uncomfortable because human beings naturally seek identity stability. You get comfortable with your flaws. You start making excuses like, "That's just the way I am," or "I've always struggled with discipline." These statements are psychological traps. They are protective shields your ego uses to keep you safe from the terrifying demand of real transformation. When you decide to execute an identity funeral, you stop making excuses for your past and start taking absolute control over your future. You begin by conducting a ruthless audit of your daily behavior. Look at your current habits, your social circles, and how you spend your free time. Ask yourself a brutal question. Would the person who achieves my biggest goals act the way I acted today? If the answer is no, then that old behavior must die immediately. You cannot carry the baggage of a lazy past into an elite future. Killing your old identity requires cutting off the escape routes that allow you to slip back into comfort. It means deleting the apps that drain your time, ending relationships that drag down your standards, and refusing to engage in the weak self-talk that used to hold you back. You have to treat your past self as a completely different person, someone you used to know but no longer take orders from. This transformation will shock the people around you. They will try to remind you of who you used to be, bringing up past mistakes or old versions of your personality to keep you anchored to their level. But as Nietzsche famously observed, the true individual must be willing to set fire to themselves in order to rise anew. Stop mourning the comfortable habits and easy lifestyle you have to leave behind. Celebrate the death of your weak self, bury your old excuses, step over the ashes of your former limits, and claim the relentless identity required to conquer your highest vision. Deep inside every ambitious person lies a quiet, burning fear that rarely gets spoken about out loud. It isn't the fear of failure, financial loss, or hard work. It is the terrifying realization that time is moving fast, and you might live an entire life without ever leaving a mark on the world. You wake up, run through the daily grind, and realize another year has slipped away while your biggest dreams remain untouched. This is existential panic, the deep, cold dread of dying irrelevant. Average people try to run away from this uncomfortable feeling. They drown it out with cheap entertainment, scrolling on their phones, drinking on weekends, and making endless excuses for why tomorrow will be different. But high performers do something completely opposite. They grab that exact fear by the throat and turn it into raw, unstoppable momentum. As Friedrich Nietzsche famously explored in his haunting concept of the eternal recurrence, imagine a demon came to you in your darkest hour and said that you would have to live your current life over and over again for eternity. Every single pain, every joy, and every wasted afternoon repeated exactly the same way. Would you curse that demon, or would you fall to your knees in gratitude because you are living a life of absolute purpose? Nietzsche used this mental test to crush human laziness. If the thought of repeating your current daily routine forever terrifies you, it means you are wasting your time on Earth. The fear of irrelevance is not a flaw in your psychology. It is an alarm clock for your soul. It is your mind screaming at you that you were built for more than just paying bills, staying comfortable, and fading quietly into history. When you stop hiding from the reality of your limited time, your entire relationship with discipline changes. You no longer need artificial motivation videos or daily pep talks to get to work. The urgency of knowing your time is ticking away becomes your ultimate fuel. The minor excuses that used to hold you back, feeling tired, being stressed, or waiting for the perfect moment, instantly melt away when faced with the cold truth of your mortality. To turn existential panic into raw momentum, you must adopt a mindset of aggressive urgency. Treat your time like a bank account with an unknown expiration date. Stop acting like you have 50 years to start taking your vision seriously. Nietzsche urged us to live dangerously and build our lives on the slopes of Mount Vesuvius, meaning you must live with an intense, active awareness that everything can end at any moment. When you carry that edge into your daily routine, your focus sharpens instantly. You cut out low-value conversations, drop useless distractions, and attack your daily goals with relentless precision. Do not let the fear of irrelevance paralyze you into silence. Let it wake you up. Lean into the heavy realization that your time on this earth is short. Burn away the urge to procrastinate and use every single breath you have to build something that outlives you. If you look at modern self-help advice, you will hear a relentless message. Balance is key. They tell you to divide your day into neat little boxes. A few hours for work, a few hours for rest, a few hours for fun, and plenty of time for entertainment. This advice sounds healthy, and for a normal, peaceful life, it works perfectly fine. But if your goal is distinction, if you want to stand out, master a craft, or build a legacy, balance is your greatest enemy. Every top performer in human history, from world-class athletes to revolutionary thinkers, paid a heavy toll to reach the peak. That toll is the obsession tax. As Friedrich Nietzsche observed throughout his life, exceptional human achievement never comes from moderate effort. Nietzsche argued that true creation demands a single-minded devotion that looks crazy to ordinary people. When you decide to master something, you have to trade away normal, everyday pleasures. You trade late nights out, easy social hours, and effortless rest for long stretches of focused, intense work. The world calls this behavior unhealthy or extreme, but extreme results only come from extreme focus. Average effort only yields average results. When you split your energy across 10 different priorities, you become mediocre at all of them. Your mind becomes like water sprayed from a loose hose, scattered, weak, and unable to cut through anything. But when you channel all that energy into a single point, your focus becomes like a laser that cuts through steel. The human brain is simply not built to achieve greatness across every domain at the exact same time. High achievers understand this biological reality. They do not try to keep every area of their life perfectly level. Instead, they choose their primary mission and allow minor distractions to fall away. They accept that while they are building their vision, other areas of life will temporarily look unbalanced. This brings us to a harsh psychological truth. Balance is a reward for people who have already won, not a tool for people who are still climbing. When you are in the building phase of your life, attempting to maintain perfect balance will only slow you down and exhaust you. You end up giving half-hearted effort to your work and half-hearted effort to your rest. You are never fully present anywhere. You end up stressed, guilty, and stagnant. To break free from this trap, you must reframe how you look at obsession. Obsession is not a mental flaw or a sickness. It is the ultimate tool of competitive advantage. In a world full of easily distracted people who can barely focus on a task for 10 minutes without checking their phones, a person who can sit in a room and lock into a single problem for hours is unstoppable. Nietzsche warned that most people choose comfort over potential because comfort requires nothing from you. Comfort lets you stay safe in the middle of the crowd, but distinction requires you to step out of line, pay the upfront cost of extreme focus, and carry the weight of your own ambition. Paying the obsession tax means setting clear, uncompromising boundaries. It means learning to say no to good opportunities so you can say yes to great ones. It means accepting that people around you might not understand why you work so hard or why you care so deeply about your goals. You do not need to justify your drive to people who are satisfied with staying average. Your job is not to make them comfortable. Your job is to pay the price required for the life you claim you want. Decide what your primary mission is today. Cut away the excess noise, pay the tax of complete focus, and leave modern mediocrity behind. When you commit to living an extraordinary life, you quickly discover that the hardest cost you pay isn't physical fatigue or long working hours. The heaviest cost is emotional, and it hits you in your relationships. As your vision expands and your standards rise, the distance between you and the people you grew up around begins to grow. This is the solitude penalty, the inevitable, painful price of outgrowing your circle. Society likes to pretend that true friends will always grow at the exact same pace you do. But in reality, when you start changing your habits, raising your standards, and chasing massive goals, you subconsciously hold up a mirror to everyone around you. Your dedication exposes their laziness. Your discipline highlights their lack of control. Your refusal to complain highlights their victim mindset. Without saying a single word, your growth makes comfortable people feel deeply uncomfortable. As Friedrich Nietzsche famously observed, those who dance are considered insane by those who cannot hear the music. When you start hearing a higher call, a drive to build, create, and conquer, your actions look insane to people who are content staying where they are. They will try to pull you back down into the bucket. They will tell you that you've changed, that you're working too hard, or that you've become arrogant. But you haven't become arrogant. You've simply stopped settling for low standards. This creates a terrifying psychological test, the willingness to walk alone. Human beings have an ancient evolutionary need to belong to a tribe. For thousands of years, being rejected by the group meant physical death. Because of this, your brain is wired to fear isolation above almost everything else. Average people give up on their biggest dreams simply because they cannot stand the thought of being left out or judged by their immediate social group. They trade their life's potential just to keep getting invited to minor hangouts and low-value conversations. Nietzsche warned that the higher we soar, the smaller we appear to those who cannot fly. If you want to reach elite heights, you must build the internal strength to handle being misunderstood. You have to realize that outgrowing people is not a personal betrayal, it is a natural law of growth. Just as a seed must leave the comfort of the soil to become a tree, you must leave the safety of your old crowd if you want to see how far you can go. The solitude penalty forces you to face long stretches where you feel completely isolated. You will no longer fit in with your old friends, but you haven't yet reached the level where you are surrounded by your new peers. You end up in an uncomfortable middle ground, a lonely valley where no one truly understands what you are going through. This valley is where most people quit and retreat back to safety. They cannot handle the quiet nights, the lack of applause, and the heavy feeling of standing on their own 2 feet. But if you can survive this season of isolation, it becomes your greatest superpower. Solitude clears away the constant noise and opinions of average minds. It forces you to look inward and build a rock-solid sense of self-worth that doesn't depend on outside approval. When you learn to enjoy your own company and trust your own judgment, you stop looking for validation from people who aren't even going where you're trying to go. Paying the solitude penalty is the price of admission to elite performance. Do not fear losing people who demand that you stay small to make them feel comfortable. Embrace the quiet seasons, build your mind in silence, and trust that on the other side of isolation, you will eventually find the few who hear the exact same music as you. Most people view pain as an emergency. The moment life gets difficult, stressful, or uncomfortable, modern culture tells you to pull back, rest, seek comfort, and distract yourself. We are conditioned to treat friction as a sign that something has gone terribly wrong. But if you want to accomplish anything of lasting significance, you have to completely invert this mindset. Discomfort is not a sign of failure. It is the raw material required to forge mental steel. Friedrich Nietzsche compared the human spirit to metal on a blacksmith's anvil. Cold metal cannot be shaped into a sharp, reliable weapon. It must first be thrown directly into the fire and struck repeatedly with heavy blows. Nietzsche famously stated that for a human being to reach incredible heights, they must be tested, beaten, and exposed to intense difficulty. Strength is not a genetic gift you are born with. It is a byproduct of surviving friction that you willingly choose to endure. This introduces the power of intentional suffering. Average people wait for life to throw hardships at them, and when trouble arrives, they break under the pressure. High performers do the exact opposite. They intentionally seek out difficulty every single day before life forces it upon them. They run toward the hard tasks, the uncomfortable conversations, and the demanding projects. By voluntarily placing themselves on the anvil, they build an elevated baseline of resilience that makes everyday life feel remarkably easy. When you voluntarily step into uncomfortable situations, you shatter your brain's artificial limits. Your mind naturally wants to protect you by telling you to quit long before you actually reach your physical or mental limits. It creates a false wall of fatigue and anxiety to keep you safe in your comfort zone. But every time you push past that wall, every time you stay focused when you're tired, or choose the hard path over the easy shortcut, you recalibrate what your mind considers possible. Nietzsche introduced a powerful concept known as amor fati, the love of one's fate. This isn't just passive acceptance of bad situations, it is the active enthusiasm for every obstacle, failure, and stressor that comes your way. Instead of complaining, "Why is this happening to me?" the elite mindset shifts to, "This is exactly what I need to grow stronger." You stop viewing problems as interruptions to your life and start viewing them as the core training itself. To apply this principle today, you must stop running from hard choices. When faced with an easy path and a demanding path, train yourself to instinctively choose the path that demands more from you. Treat every heavy workload, every high-pressure deadline, and every moment of self-doubt not as punishment, but as a strike from the hammer on the anvil. The world is full of fragile people who crumble at the first sight of resistance because they spent their lives running from discomfort. If you want to stand out, stop looking for an easy route. Step onto Nietzsche's anvil, embrace the fiery heat of intentional struggle, and let the pressure mold you into someone who cannot be broken.